Comes as an analysis by the Associated Press found 85 of the 154 people from private interests who met with Clinton in her first 2 years as secretary donated to the foundation, contributing $156 million to the charity. Hillary Clinton called the AP report, quote, "a lot of smoke and no fire," claiming they excluded nearly 2,000 meetings she had with world leaders. And former President Bill Clinton chalked the latest controversy up to election year politics.
We're trying to do good things. If there's something wrong with creating jobs and saving lives, I don't know what it is. I saw people were criticizing Hillary for meeting with Elie Wiesel and Muhammad Yunus, 2 Nobel Prize winners, who would have gotten meetings with any foreign secretary in any country in the world. So I just think, it's election season.
Joining the panel this week, Wall Street Journal Potomac Watch columnist Kim Strassel, Associate Editorial Page Editor James Freeman, Editorial Board Member Dorothy Rabinowitz, and Main Street columnist Bill McGurn. So, Kim, what was the most important thing we learned this week about, in your view, about the Clinton Foundation and the State Department and the relationship when she was secretary?
I think the most important thing we learned is that they were essentially one and the same. And that's the importance of these emails that we got from Huma Abedin. That's a Clinton aide.
Right.
A bunch of her records were released this week. And what they show is this constant back and forth discussion that she had with Doug Band, who was one of the executives of the Clinton Foundation, where they were, in essence, keeping tracks of schedules together, talking about the secretary's events. And he was, in many cases, asking for special audiences in front of her with prominent Clinton Foundation donors. So despite her promise that she was distancing herself from the foundation, all of this was continuing while she was Secretary of State.
Well, what about this defense that some of her folks are offering, which is that she had, the AP report is wrong because it focuses on too narrow a group of people who met with her, and in fact she was meeting with thousands of more people. Does that wash?
It doesn't wash, because here's the thing. Hillary Clinton was obliged as Secretary of State to meet with foreign dignitaries and U.S. officials, and those are the thousands of meetings she's talking about. She wasn't obliged to meet with anybody from outside of the State Department. That's the 154 people that the AP report is talking about, and it is notable that of the very few people she did meet from outside the State Department, the majority of them were all Clinton Foundation donors.
So Dorothy, do you see it this way?
Well, I think that the short answer is no, I don't see it that way. The number of meetings she held is something like 1,700 meetings.
Yeah, but most of them were with diplomats. That's
right.
Different than with private interests, is it not?
Well, I don't see that is the case. Here's the bottom line. With all of the talk of all of the revelations, there is one truth that stands out. You cannot find a single case of proof that any tangible anything was given, any gifts were given, anything to the detriment of the United States.
There was no quo for the quid.
There is no pro, and not only that, all of the smoke, the continuing smoke with no fire, is only adding to itself. If you take that AP report, it starts off by saying, more than half of the meetings that she held. Well, that's quite an eye-catcher. More than half of the meetings, when you have 150 people, she met 75 out of them.
But if you're a regular American and you just, I'd love to go talk to the Secretary of State about my ideas, but I haven't given $100 million to the Clinton Foundation. You going to get that meeting? I don't think you're getting that meeting, James.
Well, I think it is a thing of value. Certainly there are people every day in Washington paying a lot of money to people who can arrange meetings with cabinet secretaries. So I think the meeting itself is
of some value.
Is of value. And one of our readers wrote in this week, Lynn Chestnut of State College, Pennsylvania, saying, why don't these donations to the Clinton Foundation violate the emoluments clause of the Constitution, where people like Hillary Clinton, the State Department, are not supposed to be taking gifts from foreign powers?
Well, what about Dorothy's point, though, that there really is no evidence so far of that there was anything beyond meetings that they got in return, no policy shift in the, certainly with the Crown Prince of Bahrain, for example, who got a meeting after Doug Band intervened, but we don't know that anything was done on his behalf.
Well, again, I think arranging a meeting is a gift, but this is false, this claim that it was only meetings. We know, for example, one particular case where heavy Clinton Foundation donors ended up getting a favorable decision on the sale of large uranium supplies to Russia, now to a Russian firm, I should say. Now, the claim by the Clintons is, oh, well, the State Department under Hillary Clinton, Mrs. Clinton signed off on this, but she wasn't very involved, and that has been coming into question lately as more emails have come out.
I'd say, look, there are quids and quos lying all over the floor here, and we don't know what they got in return. We don't know what the private conversations are. We do know after the Crown Prince there was an arms deal for Bahrain. We don't know whether this goes back to the cattle futures when Tyson Foods, the lawyer there, was advising Mrs. Clinton.
When she was the First Lady
of Arkansas. When she was the First Lady of Arkansas. And Tyson Foods got tax breaks. We don't know whether that was in exchange, but it looks messy. Second, we know that the State Department, that agreement promised not just no quid pro quos, but we're going to separate this foundation. And now the State Department line is, oh, we meant Mrs. Clinton, not her aides. I mean, it's just, we're always parsing the word is or what it means by this with the Clintons.
You can see it doesn't look good, Dorothy?
Yes, I was about to say, yes, let's use the phrase, the optics don't look good. Let's use another term. Let's think about the charity itself, which keeps being buried in all this discussion. That enterprise does enormous good, and no one disputes it. It has saved millions of